Hermitage, Northern Virginia, a non-profit organization at our home here in Alexandria, Virginia. We are not doing this for gain. We're doing this strictly for our residents, neighbors, and friends here at Hermitage. We're reading today in chapter 13 from the book One More Time, Just for the Fun of It, by Notes from Fear Acres by Effie Leland Wilder. And just a reminder, when Effie wrote this, she was 90 years old and living at home. So she's sharing her experiences, whatever they are, funny or not. Chapter 13, Quips and Trips. I hope I'm not protruding, she said. I was about to whoop with laughter when I stopped short. Maybe she didn't know she meant intrude. Maybe she wasn't being funny. If only she had smiled when she said it. She turned out to be a visitor, not a new resident, and perhaps she had confused pro with in. But she made her statement in a lovely, well-modulated voice that charmed me. Voices are important to me, maybe too much. There are people who are interesting and knowledgeable, yet I want nothing to do with them because of the tone of their voices. I'm extremely allergic to certain women's voices, women who are completely grown up, but who'll talking still like little girls. No matter what they are saying, I seem to hear, ooh-ee, ooh-ee, listen to me, itsy bitty. Aren't I cute? That's terrible of me. Some of them are perfectly nice, mature people. I'm just too critical. I just wish they had been exposed to some kind of voice therapy, or that little Mizo had been trained to their soprano renditions. Sometimes when one friend of mine is talking, the words seem to go higher and higher and higher, in Colorcha, as if they're going to fly out the top of her head. I wonder if she ever heard herself on an audio tape. Maybe I could arrange something. No, dear diary, I won't. I promise. December 5th. Overheard. Geneva going down the hall this morning, muttering, bad ears, bad knee, bad back. But I tell you one thing, there's nothing wrong with my tongue. I can still talk, and I'm a-going to. Geneva's right about her tongue, and everybody else's. You never heard of a tongue virus, or a sprained tongue, or a dislocated tongue. And considering the mileage, that's a wonder. A truism. As the deterioration of old age sets in, the first thing to go is the screw that controls the tongue. Oh, me. Later, another amusing take on aging appeared in our Family Affairs newsletter. Dear Diary, this observation shouldn't seem amusing to those of us to whom they apply, but I can't help it. Laughing at tribulations seems so much healthier than crying. Here are a few ways. When the waitress gave you a senior discount and didn't even ask. When you have your 7th grandchild and stop coloring your hair. When you see a highway sign that reads, forgive and forget. It will add ears to your life. And you turn to your spouse and you tell him you're getting so good at the forgetting part, you may live forever. When everything you have has started either leaking or drying up. When you kiss your husband and he yawns. When you realize quality is more important than quantity. When you realize your children belong to the AARP. When your little black book contains mostly names ending in MD. When your children begin to look middle-aged. When you join a health club but you can't go. When you know all the answers but no one asks the right questions. When you look forward to adult evening. When you sit in a rocking chair and can't even get started. When your knees buckle and your belt won't. When dialing long distance service wears you out. When your back goes out more than you do. When you sink your teeth into a steak and they stay there. December the 6th. Paul and Curtis were sitting on the terrace this uneasy, reasonably mild afternoon, smoking and talking after Sunday dinner. I was perched near the library window, eavesdropping as usual. I've got a joke to tell you, Paul, said Curtis. An old pal at home calls me Irby so often, and he has a great sense of humor, and I enjoy hearing it. I'm going to tell you a joke, Paul. An old pal, repeat, 3 thin three friends were in a car crash. They were killed and went to heaven. The next day, an angel said to their spirits, "Down below, you are now in your caskets, and people are looking at you. What do you hope they are saying?" The first man said, "I hope they're saying I was a fine citizen." The second man said, "I hope they're saying I was a good husband and father." The third man said, was quiet. The angel prompted him, "What about you?" The man grinned and said, "I hope they're saying, look, he's still moving." December the 7th. Today I was walking behind two men in Main Hall and heard one of them say to the other, "I guess I'm like that fellow that sang the song in Chopin. I'm tired of living and fearing of dying." Well, I thought, at least he's honest. After two gentlemen residents left the lunch table, we remaining females began to talk about our husbands, all of whom had to be modified by a sad adjective, our late husbands. One person told this story about a woman in another retirement home who, after her husband died, went to the local undertaker to make arrangements for her own husband. My husband's in Arlington Cemetery. My husband is in Arlington Cemetery, and I want to be there beside him. Oh, don't worry. Later, I recalled a memorable trip I once made by airplane. When the last child finished college, Sam and I decided to celebrate with a long-awaited trip to Europe. What great memories I have of that month. One unforgettable event is funny now, but it's quite mortifying at the time. Friends had cued me in that toilet tissue was not always furnished in some parts of Europe, and that when it was furnished, instead of being soft as old linen, it often felt about as soft as old scrap iron. So to be safe, I put a small roll of pale pink Charmin in my large handbag. When we reached our pension in Paris, Sam told me to put on my best finery, for we were going to the Ritz Hotel for tea. Sam had spent one night at the Ritz long ago, and he wanted me to have the taste of its elegance. We dressed up, took a taxi, and entered the famed upholstery. We stood in the lobby a moment, gazing at the old world opulence and getting our bearings. Bearings, yes. Right, okay. I reached into my bag for a handkerchief, and guess what fell out? Not only fell out my handkerchief, but rolled across the floor, across the lobby, leaving a pink trail. The Sherman. I wished later that I had dashed out of the door before the head started turning towards me. Instead, Sam and I stood, shocked and rooted to the spot. The next thing I knew, a beautifully uniformed bellman had dashed to the end of the pink trail, rolled up the tissue neatly, while dozens of people watched me and handed it to me with a bow. "Madam," he said very formally. Madam blushed scarlet and made the quickest X out of there in her entire life. Now when people talk about the food at the Ritz, I can't add to the conversation, but I could tell them something about the service at the Ritz. It's too good. That's the end of chapter 13.